I don't want a woman with a big belly like that. You'll have to take care of the baby all by yourself while I'm stuck with this big belly being pregnant for 9 months. He looked at me with disgust, and a mean smile appeared on his face. I knew this would happen someday, and even though I saw it coming, I went to my room right away. When I came back, I had papers in my hand. Okay, here are the divorce papers. I handed them to Anton. He looked shocked and shouted, "What's going on? Why are you doing this all of a sudden?" "Well, you suggested it first. Hurry up and sign it. I'll hand it in tomorrow," I dared him. His face went red quickly as my words hit him hard. "Just watch. You'll regret treating me badly and looking down on me," I declared. "My name's Helen. I'm 26 and a housewife. 2 years ago, I worked at a mobile company. That's where I met Anton Cade, my boss, when I was 24. We fell in love fast and got married. Anton, 3 years older, was really supportive, especially when I was new and clueless at work. I couldn't thank him enough for teaching me everything. As we worked together, we became friends and started going out for dinner often. When he asked me out, I was thrilled, especially because I'd never dated anyone before. It's a bit embarrassing, but I was always more into cartoon characters than real guys. But with everyone around me getting married, I started feeling the pressure. When I fell for Anton, I promised myself he'd be my first and only love. So when we started dating and got married a year later, I was so happy. Anton was handsome and popular with the ladies at work. I was proud to be his wife, and people congratulated us, saying they were happy for us. But little did I know what was coming. The day after we got married, I told my coworkers, "I'm married now, so I'm quitting my job." Just when we were excitedly beginning our married life, Anton dropped a bombshell, saying, "I've always wanted my wife to focus on the home. Don't worry, I can take care of us financially." "But this is so sudden. You never mentioned this before," I responded. Anton had never brought up me quitting my job before we got married. "I got this job through my dad's connection, so leaving without notice wouldn't be right." I wanted to explain, but Anton's eyes silently warned me not to bring it up. So I stayed quiet. I couldn't hold it back any longer. "I know I should have told you, but it's decided. Starting tomorrow, you're not going to work," Anton declared. What a shock. Anton's announcement about me staying home starting tomorrow hit me so suddenly I felt dizzy. But Anton was firm in his decision. I couldn't argue with him, considering he used to be my boss. Even though I had to leave my job abruptly, I was determined to make our marriage succeed. Since Anton chose me and entrusted me with running the household, I wanted to live up to his expectations. I didn't want to seem like a bad wife. I put all my effort into the housework, cooking meals, especially Anton's favorites, and setting the table with as much food as possible. Even though Anton ate without saying whether he liked it or not, I secretly hoped for a word of appreciation. After quitting my job and losing my identity, I craved that acknowledgement. "Anton, I have an important meeting tomorrow. Is my jacket clean?" I asked. "Yes, it's ready," Anton replied. He sometimes showed a traditional, controlling side. Despite this, I reminded myself how lucky I was to have married him and tried to meet his expectations. With no income of my own, living with Anton was my only option for a normal life. Although our relationship often felt more like employer and maid than husband and wife, things were mostly smooth. But one day, I fell ill and couldn't get out of bed. Feeling weak, I thought, I'll catch up on chores tomorrow. Anton stormed into the bedroom and snapped, "What are you doing? Get up and make some food." He kicked the blanket off me. "I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well today. Can you manage something for yourself?" I pleaded, hoping for sympathy. Instead of understanding, Anton scowled and said, "You don't even work, and you're lying down because you're a little sick. Pathetic. Get up." He kicked me again, and I got up stunned. I couldn't believe he would demand chores from his sick wife. I'd never seen this side of him before we got married. Maybe I missed it, but it was too much. I did my chores, tears streaming down my face. After days of feeling unwell, I realized I'd missed my period. Rushing to the drugstore, I bought a pregnancy test. When it turned out positive, tears of joy streamed down my face. I couldn't wait to tell Anton when he got home from work. But when he finally returned well past midnight, reeking of alcohol and stumbling, my excitement waned. It was surprising how much he drank, especially without warning me when I had dinner prepared. Despite my eagerness to share the news, I hesitated seeing him in such a state. "I haven't been to the doctor yet, so it's not confirmed," I started, hoping to share our happiness. But Anton's reaction was unexpected. His face darkened as he muttered, "A child? What have you done?" It was a side of Anton I'd never seen before, his tone unlike anything I'd heard from him. "What? I don't want a kid. This is the worst. If you're having it, raise it yourself." His harsh words hit me like a slap, and he stormed off to the bathroom, tossing his clothes aside. It was unreal. I couldn't understand why he'd say such hurtful things about our baby instead of being happy. The joy I felt moments ago vanished, replaced by deep sadness. How could he say that? He'd never mentioned not wanting kids before. We hadn't even talked about birth control, so I naturally assumed we both wanted children. Hearing him call having a child the worst was beyond belief. As I hung up Anton's jacket and went to take his shirt to the laundry, something caught my eye. "What's this?" A piece of paper peeked out of the dress shirt pocket, clearly a receipt by its texture. At first, I thought it was just from tonight's outing, ready to toss it away. But then I saw the name of the establishment. "Is this from a motel?" My hand shook as I held the receipt, confirming my suspicion. It was indeed from a motel. The weight of this discovery pressed heavily on my heart. Why doesn't Anton love me? Isn't marriage supposed to be built on love, especially since we've only been married for a little over a year? How could this be happening? I'd spent years lost in fantasies, never fully experiencing a real relationship. I couldn't immediately accept this harsh reality. But the idea of Anton cheating started to make sense, and pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Had Anton been using me since the beginning of our marriage? Was he truly in love with someone else while I was just a convenient servant? All these doubts churned inside me. Was that why he reacted so harshly to my pregnancy news? As I wrestled with these thoughts, nausea overwhelmed me, and I grew convinced that something wasn't right. Yes, it's clear now. Maybe he pushed me out of the company because his mistress was there. It felt like pieces were falling into place, as if he'd married me for stability rather than love. Reality blurred with my imagination, but his heartless words after learning about my pregnancy couldn't be ignored. That day, I resolved to gather evidence of Anton's affair. From then on, his cold treatment of me was undeniable. It was as if he couldn't forgive me for getting pregnant, even though he knew I was suffering from morning sickness. He'd deliberately eat strong-smelling foods near me and criticize my housework, making me do it over again. My pregnant body endured a lot, and my heart weighed heavy. But despite it all, I continued to investigate his affair. Anton was glued to his cell phone, even taking it to the bathroom, making it impossible for me to sneak a peek. When I managed to sneak into his room, it was spotless, with nothing suspicious in sight. He was always meticulous at work, and his desk was impeccably organized. I realized it would be hard to catch him off guard directly. I kept checking his pockets for any clues, like receipts, but my investigation was proving tough. The idea of hiring a detective crossed my mind, but I didn't have the money for it. Lost in thought about my situation, I got a surprise call. It was my father, who rarely contacted me, so I was curious about why he was calling. "Hey, it's your dad. How's everything?" he asked. His call caught me off guard, knowing how busy he usually is. "Dad, what's up? Aren't you swamped with work?" I questioned. "My team's been handling things well, so I've got some free time," he explained. My dad's the CEO of a company in Canada, and work has always been his priority. I didn't have many memories of playing with him as a kid, but I respected his dedication, so his call left me curious. I asked, "What's going on?" As he began to speak, he dropped a bombshell. "Seriously?" I exclaimed, struggling to believe it. "Yeah, he wouldn't make this up. I need you to trust me on this," my dad reassured me. At first, I was speechless, but as it sunk in, I felt relieved. "Thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it," I said gratefully before ending the call. After all my dating, I was starting to see results, and it felt like a small victory. But with each new piece of information came a surge of anger and frustration over the ongoing tension with Anton. Months dragged on, and our relationship stayed strained. Then, something happened that turned our world upside down. At 9 months pregnant, I treaded carefully around Anton, always on edge. I tried to keep to myself, living a quiet, restricted life. One evening, I served dinner as usual, and when Anton got home, we sat down to eat. As I quietly took my first bite, Anton suddenly slammed his fork down. "What's this? It's awful," he yelled, hurling the food I'd made onto the floor. His sudden rage left me bewildered, struggling to make sense of it all. Anger surged within me as I watched him dismiss the meal I prepared. I've been thinking about this for a while. Lately, your cooking has been bland, Anton criticized, claiming my meals lacked flavor. It was true that during my pregnancy, I'd been toning down the spices for health reasons, but it was only temporary. If he wanted more flavor, he could have added seasoning himself. Why did he have to react like this? Before I could respond, Anton delivered another blow with his hurtful words. I don't want a wife with a big belly like yours. You'll be on your own with the baby while I deal with my own issues. He spat, his eyes full of malice and a cruel smile on his lips. I had feared this confrontation, but I'd hoped for a different outcome. Without a word, I stormed off to my room, retrieved a document, and returned to confront Anton. Here are the divorce papers, I declared, thrusting the documents in front of him. Anton's face twisted in shock. What on earth? Why now? He stuttered. Your idea. Sign them quickly. I'll file them tomorrow, I retorted. Truthfully, I've been considering divorce since I suspected Anton's infidelity. But with a baby on the way, I hesitated, unsure if I could manage alone. Now, though, I had a plan. My resolve seemed to provoke Anton's, his face boiling with anger. You'll regret this. Every moment you belittled and controlled me, I warned, unwavering. I'll manage. Don't worry, I reassured him. Perhaps annoyed by my determination, he snatched the papers and began filling them out. Here. If this is what you want, take it, he grumbled. Thank you, I replied, surprised at how smoothly Anton handed over the divorce papers. The next day, I wasted no time in submitting them and leaving the house. I knew he'd be in for a shock when he got home from work. Moving in with my parents seemed like the right move, especially with my dad returning to the U.S. from Canada. I was grateful for their support and fed up with life with Anton. On a day I left, Anton called 3 times, but I ignored everyone. Eventually, the calls stopped. It was clear I meant little to him. He was probably content with his mistress, maybe even considering remarriage. I'd moved on from Anton, and 6 months had flown by. My baby arrived safely, and I was happily settled with my parents. Life was peaceful until Anton called again. At first, I ignored his calls, but his persistence forced me to answer. What do you want now? I asked, wary of his tone. Why were you on that show? And since when were you the daughter of a CEO with millions? Anton's voice boomed with surprise and anger. It turned out he'd seen a TV show broadcasted after I returned home. I'd been approached by a TV station because of my father's position as the CEO of a top global tech company. They featured our family's lavish lifestyle, filming at our house and discussing our wealth, estimating it at around $10 million. I hadn't expected Anton to see the show, but the power of TV is remarkable. By the way, I didn't mention I have a $33 million inheritance, which is why I could divorce you, I calmly replied. My father told me about it, giving me the confidence to live comfortably after our divorce. Anton's immediate reaction was pure fury. What? That's underhanded. Why keep this from me? Half of it belongs to me, doesn't it? Give me the money, he demanded. Just as I thought, seeing the show only made you think of squeezing money out of me. Gifts from parents don't count in property distribution. And let's not forget your own wrongdoing, I retorted. I'm tired of your anger, Anton. You made the call. You should know better. You can't blame me for your actions. You cheated, didn't you? And with someone from your company, a junior, right? You started before we even got married. I revealed, shocking Anton with the information I got from my father. Finally, I had the upper hand. Did you think I wouldn't find out? My father has connections in your company. One of them spilled the beans about your affair. I never brought it up, but I will be asking for child support, I declared. Anton, still in denial, protested. Stop joking. Why should I pay? It's your fault for getting pregnant and slacking off with the housework. Hearing Anton blame me without owning up to his own mistakes was unbelievable. How could I have ever been married to someone so lacking in common sense? I knew leaving him was the right decision. I thought as Anton's pitiful plea reached my ears. I'm broke. My wife spent all my money, and now I'm drowning in debt, he lamented, leaving me more dumbfounded than angry. I never want to deal with such an unreasonable person again, I declared, gripping my phone firmly. Your words are ridiculous. I want nothing to do with you. My lawyer will handle child support. Don't call me and you won't see our child anymore. Goodbye. Wait, Anton pleaded, but I didn't entertain him. After pouring out my emotions, I hung up and blocked his number, taking a deep breath. It's over now, right? No more calls from Anton. I don't want him disrupting our peaceful life, I reassured myself. Just then, I heard my baby crying from the other room, and I hurried to comfort them. It turned out Anton started paying child support each month, as a former colleague revealed. He claimed his new wife was a big spender, and he struggled to cover his living costs with mounting debt. Apparently, he reached out to me hoping for a share of my inheritance, but with me not budging, he found himself drowning in expenses, his income falling short. Whether it was pride or financial pressure, Anton's life took a downward spiral. To add to his troubles, he foolishly began his job hunt after leaving his current company, leading to financial hardship. Learning this from a colleague left me unmoved. He brought this upon himself. His cruel words and actions won't be forgotten easily. I hope he learns from his mistakes. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying parenting with my parents, free from financial worries. With the possibility of inheriting the company, I'm ready to step up. Like my hardworking father, I'm determined to make my mark.